Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Neck Deep by Neck Deep.
Take me with you when you go. Take me with you 'cause I'm so done with this planet. It sucks, yeah, you can have it. I'd be down to see inside your UFO. Take me with you when you go.
This is the Welsh Outfit's 5th studio album, arriving on the 19th of January via Hopeless Records. This self-titled album consists of 10 tracks and, of course, is the much-anticipated follow-up to 2020's Old Distortions Are Intentional LP. Time flies. I know it's only the start of the year, but 4 years since that record is insane to me.
4 years since that record doesn't feel insane to me, and I don't know why that is. I think that Neck Deep kind of did themselves a solid by maybe making... I mean, I guess I'm kind of coming at from two opposite ends. I guess I feel the weight of it, but I'm not like upset at the length of time. I almost think that like Neck Deep going away makes it feel much more exciting when they came back, because I felt like up until then they had been pretty consistent with their releases. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I mean,
it made it exciting for them to come back in a weird way.
Some context to the long wait here. First record without their founding drummer, Danny Washington, who was replaced by Matt Powells. The band also brought in longtime collaborator Seb Barlow. That's the brother of Ben Barlow, the vocalist of this band.
Yeah, that's facts.
It's also the first, as I understand it, entirely self-produced record from Neck Deep. And Seb took the wheel on that one as well. So
you kind of missed the key
pretty
piece
important
in this,
new part of this. What's that?
Which is that they scrapped a whole record that they did with a producer.
I was getting to.
Okay. I didn't see it written in.
It's all up here.
Okay, fair.
It's all up there.
Fair.
Well, the reason I was just going to let you take it because I don't have much of the reasoning why.
I don't. So I read an interview that
they came to LA to record it with some bigwig,
and I guess I just got the vibe that they didn't like the final product, that they didn't feel like it represented what they wanted to do. So they went back and they re-recorded all of it, and then that's how they kind of ended up settling on releasing a self-titled, because they felt like it was a really good like example of like, this is Neck Deep. Like they thought it really spoke to who they were as a band.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, like, I really feel that in this record. I really feel like they do the idea of releasing a self-titled album, you know, fucking 5 albums or whatever deep justice. Yes.
Yeah. And realistically, this is a big return to form. As much as I enjoyed most of Old Distortions Are Intentional, it is not my favorite Neck Deep record. The one that preceded it is. The Peace and the Panic. This is going to be maybe a hot take in general. I think we've shared this opinion on the podcast before. The Peace and the Panic is the greatest pop punk record ever released.
Right there with you. 100%.
Like that is peak pop punk to me. Like Neck Deep, In Bloom is that bitch. Okay.
It goes Neck Deep, MGK,
and way down at the bottom, Blink-182. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, no, I still, and I think it's because that was the first album that really ever made me feel passionate about pop punk, which I know is a crazy thing to say to a lot of people who are going to be like, Wonder Years? I mean, I was looking for something to throw, you know?
Well, I mean, again, like a lot of people
or fucking 20 million other fucking pop punk bands, right?
The history of us in this show is that we despise pop punk for the first half of this shit.
It was gross. I spit on it.
And then Neck Deep releases In Bloom, and we're like, let's hear them out. And then that record drops, and it's like a coming to God moment for me.
The funny thing is I do think that, because I joke about it so much at this point, but Tickets to My Downfall really reinvigorated my love for fucking pop punk too. And it's so fucking funny. But I want to go back to All Distortions Are Intentional real quick. You know what that album feels like to me? It feels like the In Love and Death of their discography, where it's like so dramatically different than what came before.
Yeah.
And it's very specifically this like difference of like the punk angle and the pop angle, and like the opposite ends of the spectrum for the band. In the same way that I always look at the Used and like their first album and their second album is like, okay, this was us acting all punk and this is us acting all pop, right? And this is forever both opposite ends of the spectrum of what this band is trying to accomplish. And I really liked All Intentions Are Distortional.
What's the overall vibe that you would assign to that record? I'm trying to gauge that from you.
It's like,
because I remember it being like
airy,
way less fun.
It's not fun. It's more of like it's like a fluffy cloud. It's an album that feels good, but it doesn't have really any feelings of intensity to it in the way that like a pop punk band can get a little fucking riled up every once in a while, right? And you definitely have a lot of that on this record, right? Even if it's just kicking the tempo up, All Distortions Are Intentional really felt like it capped the band at a certain level.
Yes.
And they were never allowed to like pass it.
Here, light years ahead, bro. They're fucking doing laps.
I don't know that I feel the same. We might be on slightly opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm gonna let you have an opinion.
I fucking love this record.
And then I'm gonna have mine. Keep going.
I fucking love this record, man. It is, respectfully, it's super easy breezy while still having plenty of good stuff to say. There's a lot of like good messaging throughout here. So we need more bricks, a little bit angstier, a little bit more like political. Then you also have, they may not mean to, but they do, which is like sort of commentary on how parents raise children and how those children treat their parents growing up, and how it's sort of like is this,
it's cyclical or something,
circle. Yeah. And like Moody Weirdo, like there's just a lot of like good moments throughout, but the overall energy of this record is so fucking good. For me personally, it's just exactly what I need it to be from this band. It's all high energy, bouncing off the walls. This band sounds uncontainable at times in a way that just, it really feeds my excitement over this entire project.
I agree with everything you said. Let me say that. Agree with everything you said.
Ben is just top tier pop punk vocalist on here. I love it. I love
bro, fucking, I love God's gift to pop punk.
I love the silliness. A lot of the lyrics share. Dumbstruck, dumbfuck. Starting off this album by saying they had like a dump truck or whatever, like just stupid shit like that. And then of course there's the track what is it called? Take Me With You, the alien song, the UFO song. That is, tell me it's not a drone, all these different stupid lyrics in there. I have so much fun with this record, and that's ultimately just what I was looking for from Neck Deep again. Not that, like, again, the Peace and the Panic had layers. I think this shares it with that. And then the common, the most common thing between them is that it just sounds fucking energetic. This band sounds absolutely rejuvenated on this record. I was so bored with, I'm bored thinking back to All Distortions Are Intentional. I think I was a lot higher on that record when it first dropped, but ever since I think back.
Give yourself credit, because I don't remember you being high on that record at all.
Okay. Thanks. And I don't know, there's something about this record, just the artwork pops so much more in comparison. I love the angle of going self-titled on this. Everything is falling into place.
If you haven't seen it.
Everything is falling into place for me on this record. And I think by the time I finish this record, the only complaint I really had, Sam, and it's not even really that significant of one because this album doesn't actually need it, but I'm pissed we didn't get Shut the Fuck Up on this.
Shut the Fuck Up would have been so at home. It just feels like a weird choice.
No-brainer.
I wonder if that's one of those cases where maybe you want to be able to say the album is fully self-produced. So then you have a song that isn't, and you say, well, I'm sorry, by, virtue of your credits, you just can't be here.
Re-record it.
Save it for the fucking deluxe re-release. Listen. All right. So
you're
mirror a lot of your thoughts, but maybe have a little more pushback. So I think this does a really good job of revisiting their original style, right? Without feeling like a parody of themselves.
Pause. Because we haven't heard like the first 2 records still.
No.
I think it's important to notate that.
Did I ever go back?
No.
Yeah, but
you didn't.
I know who Neck Deep is.
I know
what that
I
band
know.
sounds like. Like, don't play.
We saw like the skate video in the lake and all that.
This feels like their authentic selves, right?
Yes.
And then overall, I just listen to this album. It's a cozy blanket. It's comfort food. It's a big warm embrace. Like, I just have a genuine smile on my face through the entirety of this album. I am happy listening to it. Here's where I push back a little bit. I think this band, like a sports team that struggled a little bit, the coach pulled them aside and said, we got to stick to the fundamentals. We get the fundamentals down, then we can expand upward again. But first we gotta manage those fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
This album is Neck Deep getting their fundamentals back in line.
Get
you know
their
what I
feet
mean?
back onto them.
Which is to say that I don't really find any of this record very flashy or experimental or going out on a limb to take any chances. I think that while that would be okay for maybe other bands, Neck Deep is 5 albums deep. They got to do something I feel like a lot of bands do in their career where, depending on the general sentiment of the last album and whatever else happens in the 4 years between recording it, you go back to what made you popular to begin with. You try to find the spirit of the style of music that makes you happy, the style of music that makes your fans happy. And ultimately, I think that it's like check, check, check. They nail it on every front. But this is a step backwards to find their footing, not a step forward. And I think I appreciate the chances that an album like All Intentions Are Distortional takes from a band like Neck Deep, and in the ways that they succeeded there, then how much they on this album prove that they are still very good at what they do, right? So there's this like no denying that this is a great version of Neck Deep and they knock it out of the park. Reminds me a lot of that You Me at 6 album from last year, you know?
Yeah.
Like, hard to argue. This band is one of the best that ever did this, and this is them doing it all over again to prove that they're still that bitch. That being said, from a critical perspective, I don't know that I look at this album in any way and say like, Neck Deep really fucking like. Well, ultimately, yeah. Like this isn't better than The Peace in the Panic.
No, I'm not saying that by any means.
This is very good, and it harkens back to that sound, but it doesn't push it any farther.
It's missing,
and it doesn't do it any better.
And I don't disagree. It is missing that special something that does push it over the edge.
Sam Carter.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not disagreeing with that. But for me personally, it's the exact record that I, as a Neck Deep fan, wanted from this band today. And I'm really happy that they delivered on that. And I think, not for nothing, dude, it's got some of their best material on here. So
So what do you score it?
A really, really light 9.
Wow.
This version of Neck Deep is my ideal pop punk band. So like when I compare this to other pop punk bands, like this is the golden fucking thing for me, you know? Like this is the mark I'm going to compare every other pop punk album I listened to this year. And it's not just going to be, oh, did I have as fun with this depressing record as I did this really fun Neck Deep record? That's not how I'm going to compare it. But like, did it fucking get the juices flowing like this record did? That's what I'm going to be thinking about, you know?
Sure, absolutely.
Which juices?
I'm closer to a light 7.5. I think that this album is a really great time, but I don't know. And before I finish, let me just say, Moody Weirdo is an incredible fucking song.
Incredible closer.
I just don't know that come the end of the year, this is really going to stick with me in any major capacity.
Interesting. We have a whole 10, 11 months to look forward to that.
This is me. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
No,
This
no,
is
no,
what
no.
I think right now.
Well, I'm just curious where both of us ultimately land, because again, I know it is literally the first episode of the season, the second album that we are reviewing, but I am extremely high on it. I don't expect to waver in that throughout the course of this year. So
I'm
we'll
not saying I'll grow to dislike it. I just think it'll be respectfully overshadowed.
Okay, fair. There is a reason though that this was the biggest circle on the January calendar for me,
Sure.
and I think it delivered. So again, arriving soon on Hopeless Records. Go check that out when it drops.